So for those of you that I was able to catch before coming down here, I have tapered my lesson from last week, so it is much more focused, and the scope is a lot smaller. So we've got that going for us. So today's just going to be the sights and sounds of Spanish. We're going to start with the alphabet, and much like in English, alphabet. Much like in English, like the way you say the letters in the alphabet isn't how they sound. So we're going to go over those differences here. For those of you that have the book, all of this is in the book as well. I have some additional copies here because I'll be at a book fair, so I got some additional as well. If you want one, let me know or get with me after the lesson. But just going right across, so English, of course, or the letter itself, rather, of course, is in black, and then the pronunciation is in red. Does anybody want to take a crack at that?
I'll do it.
Sure.
A, B, C, D, E, F, E, H, H, I, Ota.
Jota.
Oh, okay. Jota,
Yeah.
K, L, M, N, N, Y.
Yep.
O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, double.
Yep. V doble.
V double. X.
X.
Zeta.
Zeta. Yes. So it's important to note that technically Y has two pronunciations. If you're saying like the letter Y, there's Y, or then there's Y. I don't know which regions prefer which, but I can tell you that there are two standard accepted pronunciations, Y and Y. Use whichever one you want as often as you recite the alphabet, So but this is just for that baseline familiarity of the letters and the base sounds of Spanish. So A, B, C, D, E, F, R. It's G is kind of pronounced in a couple of different manners, and we'll get to that here in a moment. H, I, J, K, L, M, N, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, or Y, and Z. So, well, first, before we move on, does anybody have any questions about the pronunciations of the letters themselves?
Go back to
H? Okay. So, H, you pronounce the letter itself H, but whenever you're using it in speech, it's never pronounced. So think like hola starts with an H, it's never pronounced.
so it's silent.
Correct. But whenever you're saying the letter H, yes. Can you chew it up?
Okay, so that's why the table in the book says H is silent.
Correct. Yes. And if I can make that, if you could show me in the table and if it's not perfectly clear, please let me know because I can always make a revision to the book and publish that. Get that out there.
Yeah, because it does not match what you got here. So,
okay.
Just a couple of things. But,
does this table look more familiar?
H silent. Yeah, that's the one I've been looking at in the book.
Gotcha. So the alphabet and the pronunciation are two different tables, but I agree that I understand how there can be confusion. This is
just an asterisk by a couple of them.
Yeah.
An explanatory note.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry.
So here we're going to get into the actual phonetics, the true pronunciation in speech of the letters. In the parentheses next to the letters, that's how you should expect the letter itself to sound. So A, it maintains that same sound. B, but we wouldn't say bueno whenever we're saying bueno, but it does make the B sound. So when we see the B, if you isolate that, the sound, B, bueno. And that's what I'm trying to illustrate here in this chart.
Pronounce the word then after bueno.
Bailar.
Oh, okay.
Bailar.
Okay, to me that looked like two L's from here. I'm
Sorry.
sorry. Okay. I thought it was a bar.
No, I can.
Okay, I can see it's an I.
Okay.
I'm just looking at it.
So it's not,
Go ahead.
I learned it as Baylor, but okay. Bailar.
Bailar. Yeah.
Okay.
And
And you just pronounce all of them.
and a lot of these, and like I was mentioning last week, if you just go letter by letter, Spanish is well, at least in my opinion, surprisingly phonetic language. So if you just go bailar and like the standard pronunciations of the letters themselves, you get the correct pronunciation, or at least a standardly accepted pronunciation, because regional dialects and pronunciations certainly vary. Eat. Okay, just sit, please, buddy. Eat your food, buddy, please. Yeah, watermelon. So I'll do the first few, and then I guess every 3 or 4 we'll just see if somebody else would like to volunteer. So, amigo, calidad. So you can see in everywhere that we have it here, you should expect the standard pronunciation of A to be a. B, bueno, bailar. So again, standard B sound. C here has 2 different sounds, much like in English. They actually follow the exact same pattern. So, ciudad, much like how we have city, cantidad. So it depends on the vowel that it's paired with, and that's what dictates the sound of the C. But it follows the exact same pattern. So, ciudad, city, cantidad, just like our caliber, for example. So, however you would say that pairing in English, apply the same rule, expect to be correct. Again, regions may vary.
So if it's with an I, it's going to be an S sound, and if it's
Correct.
with an A, it's going to be a K sound.
Correct. Yeah. The letter D, daño, bendiga. So expect that standard D sound. Any questions on those first 4? I see some gears turning. What's up?
My pronunciation is awful.
Oh no.
Just say it's your accent, whatever. I mean, what it's from Nebraska. You have this no accent.
No accent.
It may sound corny. I think my corniness is starting. I don't know. Maybe I'm just corny, but it's not awful. You're new.
Okay.
You're starting at Spanish, but it's true though, because like if hey, can you read, buddy? If you've never pronounced these things before, you don't know how they sound. If these sounds are new to you, then they're just new to you, and that's all it is. It's not like you're awful or you're no good at Spanish. No, quite the opposite. You're just new.
You're just very generous, don't you think?
The next 4. Anybody want to volunteer?
I'll do it.
All right.
Enseñar,
Uh-huh.
Ray, faltar, fuiste.
Good. Yes. Good catch on that E.
Lugar, general. It's general or
General.
general?
General.
General. Historia.
Yes.
Encima, indicativo.
Yes. And good sounding that out too. So on that E again. So they're everywhere you see that enseñar, rey. So expect that E pronunciation.
Daddy, move.
Buddy. F, faltar, fuiste, E at the end. It's that E sound. Jugar. So J, we haven't gotten to down to the J yet, but J makes the H sound in Spanish. So jugar, general. You'll find that some countries, some nationalities say G more of like a firm G sound. Hey, are you gonna eat the grape? The G makes the hard G sound. Others kind of have like a phlegmy general it's more of a soft G, but either is acceptable. And then H, as we mentioned, is silent. Hielo, historia. And again, I, E, encima, indicativo. So good pronunciations on those. Anyone for the next few? If there are no takers, I'm more than happy. Okay.
Jalapeno, Guadalajara.
Yep.
Kilometro.
Yep.
Kiosco. Levantar. Añale.
Very good. Yeah.
Oh, one more.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mexico and amable.
Good. And
Say Mexico again. Say Mexico again.
Mexico.
Mexico. Okay.
yes. And the X, yes, does make the H sound as well.
Okay.
Yes, very good pronunciation on all of those. Good.
Was the little the accent mark with this? I know it's called over the E. What
Yeah,
does
so
mean?
that is the acute accent over the E, and that's just the accenting of Mexico.
Oh, okay.
That's
I
just
remember you
standard
told
for
us
the
last
word.
week, but I didn't remember what.
Yeah, so quick refresher on that is you only ever use the accents over vowels, and you use them to denote two things, either stressed accent, Mexico, because it's not Mexico, Mexico, or denoting different tenses, different time of the verbs. And then the last two.
Give it a go.
Sure.
Mantequilla,
Very good.
andar,
Very good.
España, Maño.
Perfect.
Oh, bathroom. I said,
Yeah. That is an important one, yes. Yeah. And that's on the sheet too from last week. Go ahead, buddy. Thank you, buddy.
You get a few more.
Hey, there,
What's up?
ice on ice. I've heard it. The way they're saying it in my house is jello. Is that a dialect?
Yeah, so I at least alluded to that last week. I touched on it briefly. Shh, go ahead and draw. I touched on that last week where if you go to Argentina, for example, the Y, the double L sound, that the Y sound, cielo, me llamo, yo. So that shh, it's just a regional, it's a dialectical thing.
Okay.
But that's the Y type sound. Yellow. That's the regional change of that sound for them.
I thought they were saying jello.
No.
You're saying Jello.
Why would I want to put jello in my pot? That's
Probably not.
disgusting.
Probably not. Just put it here. Any other questions on this first set here?
All right, now, España is Spain.
Correct.
España, without the little Antilles over it, is just what? Spanish? But, Iglesia Hispana is the name of the
Yes.
congregation here without the Antilles
So,
or whatever little wiggly thing.
That's a different spelling. So the Iglesia Hispana, that's Hispana.
Okay.
So España, that is yes. Spain, which is
The country in Hispana is.
kind of like a way of Hispanic. It's
Okay.
just a derivation from
Okay.
the same. But that, of course, as I'm sure you guys can all see, is where we get Español, the language, from. Any other questions? Okay, moving along.
Right.
Go ahead.
Okay. Senor.
Okay, good.
Jose.
Letter by letter, it makes that O sound. Everywhere it makes that O sound.
I don't know.
Oposición.
Opposition.
Mhm.
Okay.
And that CION, especially with the accent too, that's a very standard pronunciation or standard combination that you'll see is pretty related, pretty close. And take the next two or three.
Peligro.
Yep. Palpitante.
Palpitante.
Palpitante. Yep.
Guero. Or
Querer. 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 Querer.
So you kind of level your R.
So single R's, you can honestly get away with pronouncing them kind of like these, honestly.
Okay, yeah.
Well, the story should have gone first. It was easier words.
See, you're getting it, bud. Alquilar.
Alquilar.
Yes. And I understand that a lot of these words may not be, beginner friendly per se, or maybe they're not the most applicable to you guys, but this is to paint the picture of the pronunciation of the letters. That's the point of this exercise. So, señor, oposición. So we see it in every O, oposición. Peligro, peligro. Those vowel sounds remain constant as well. Palpitante. That's a good mix of, 4 of the 5 vowels. Querer, alquilar. And these 2 words also paint a good picture of que, like por qué, que is like what. Alquilar, qui is also very common. That is who. So, yeah, that paints a good picture of the of those vowel combinations too. I'll go ahead and take the next 4. R, racional, racha. So again, single R's, you can more or less get away with pronouncing them like these. Serpente, estar, Tijuana.
I always say T-O-1. It's not T-O-1.
Correct. Tijuana. Tanto. And then U has 2 different sounds. Unirse, it makes that long sound. Ubiquitario. Otherwise, in some vowel combinations, it is silent. Ubiquitario.
Okay, so if it's a UI, it's the U is silent. Then? Like the QUI is
Yes.
You say the key.
Yes. So and like in alquilar, ubiquitario, ¿quién es? Like who are you? So QUI, good rule of thumb, it's qui. Does anybody want to take the next 3? V, W, and X. Okay.
Ver. Suave. No, suave.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Great job.
Okay. Whiskey.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yes, it is.
What,
Yeah.
Say it.
Whiskey.
Okay.
Whiskey.
So it is kind of whiskey. All
Yeah.
right. White.
Yep.
Just the double T is just a T.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Mexico. Quixote.
Quixote.
And
Yep.
it's an E because I don't say the U.
Correct.
Oh, Quixote. Yeah.
Quixote.
Okay, don't because there's an I. Okay. All right.
Very good.
Okay.
And so W doesn't exist. I do my best not to speak in absolutes. Don't expect to find W in native Spanish words.
Okay.
So like I chose whiskey and what because loan words are basically, you can basically only find W in Spanish in loan words. So don't expect to see that in native texts. The last 2, Y, ya, ay. It makes that y, ya, ay, and where you find it. And then zeta makes a C sound, almost like a, maybe I should have put a T there, but abrazo, zapato. Abrazo, zapato. These last 3 are special cases. I mentioned that there are some of them last week, but here we'll get a little bit more into detail. So the CH, where you find CH in Spanish, expect it to make the second sound that is listed here. The hard K sound, Cristo, I found that to basically be the outlier. That is and what I found, that is the only time that you pronounce CH like a hard K, Cristo. Otherwise, mancha, racha, it makes the ch sound, much like in English.
Daddy, look.
I see, buddy. Good job. Can you put more colors, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. The double L, the L doble. Some teachers may call this a letter in and of itself. I don't. I call it a letter combination. It makes that y sound, as I've been mentioning. Desarrollo, llamar, and again, depending on the region, they may pronounce it sh, desarrollo, llamar. And then the R doble, the double R, cerrar. This is when there's two R's. That's when you truly do. That's when you're supposed to roll it. Cerrar, zorro. So that's how you pronounce the double R's. But don't be surprised if you see or hear people pronouncing the single R as rolls, and it's yeah. So with these ones, any questions? Is there anything anybody would like to go over again?
How do you learn the double R roll? 'Cause I had a lot of trouble with that.
Yeah. So
You joined the choir of Donald.
And we're still waiting for your daughter, by the way, who said she was going to sing.
Huh?
We're still waiting for your daughter.
She said she
was
hasn't had
gonna
a
sing.
chance.
Which format?
Okay.
So when it comes to learning the different sounds like the rolled R, we don't really do that in English. And there are plenty of sounds in plenty of foreign languages that are just foreign. I've kind of always been able to roll my tongue and roll my R's like that, so it comes with it. I know this isn't the best advice, but it comes with finding a way to just loosen the front end of your tongue. I wish I had better advice for you. But I can tell you that I've had this challenge before, like in German, they roll their R's in the back of their throat. It's the weirdest thing, and I still mess it up to this day. So trust me, and like, oh, how do I just make this sound? You are not alone in having that question or that challenge. I wish I had better advice for you. When I'll do more looking, and I will have a better answer for you next week.
We visited Costa Rica, and the housekeeper told me to put a spoon on my tongue and practice. And I don't know how. I cannot get it.
Practice machine gun sounds? I don't know.
No, because she can't. She goes.
That's another good. Yeah, pretend you're an engine. Pretend you're an engine.
Physically impossible.
I can't do it either. So Sandy and I are.
I'm going to try.
In music, you use some of the letter heading like this.
I'll do some more looking, and like I said, I'll have a better answer for you next week. Right now, I just wish I had better advice for you. I'm sorry.
We just can't be Spanish. Good thing we weren't born there.
Oh, no.
And here it's something interesting too. The other way around for Spanish speakers speaking English.
Yeah.
What's really complicated for them, I've found, is the TH sound in this, that, and the other. It's always this, that, and the other. And it's so hard for them to get that
It's just very natural.
sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I noticed that with her dad as well. He's trying to help him out.
And on top of that, another thing that depending on where you're talking to, I guess, B's and V sound is kind of just flip-flopped. They just mix it up, but obviously we don't do that in English. So I'm sure that that's a challenge for plenty native Spanish speakers as well. But any other questions? Whether I can answer them or not completely right now. Any other questions? Okay.
Why does Enya actually make that Enya?
That's just how Spanish works, kiddo.
Oh.
Yeah.
I like your question.
I'm just glad they have a mark to tell me when. So the last bit that we'll go over is these vowel combinations. Now, if anybody's curious about the grammar term, if they want to do their own research, 2 vowel combinations are called diphthongs. 3 vowel combinations, though they are rare in Spanish, they do exist, triphthongs. die, try. It just goes up like that. So if you want to do your own research, if you're that curious like I am, diphthongs, triphthongs. Does anybody want to take the first row across the top? Sure, hit it.
Bahia, Reina, coincidencia, cuidado.
Good.
I say that ciudad.
I'm sorry?
Ciudado.
No, cuidado. Cuidado. So that caution for city and caution, the UI are flipped.
Okay.
So city is ciudad.
Ciudad.
Caution is cuidado. And there's that hard C sound, just like how we would have, think like cumin, like the seasoning cumin, cuidado. So that C carries the same pronunciation there. Bailar, reina. Yep. Yeah, so you pronounce each of those vowels separately as well. Reina, coincidencia, and then cuidado. Any questions on those first four? Okay. Anybody want to? Hey, we're not doing grades yet.
Autobiografía
Good.
deuda
Very good.
infancia
Perfect.
they told me yesterday, viejo.
Very, very good. Perfect.
Yeah. Nice.
The only nudge is on that first one. Autobiografía. Autobiografía. And you can see the accent on that end because it is different from the standard. Autobiografía. That's where that stress falls. Biografía. But very, very good. Questions on those four? Okay. Anybody want to take the third set?
Precio,
Good.
ciudadano,
Yep. Perfect.
adecuado,
Very good.
juego.
Juego. Very, very good. Perfect.
Say it again.
Precio.
No, the last one.
Juego.
Wiggle.
Juego. Precio. Ciudadano. Adecuado. Juego. Perfect. Very good job. And then those last two, ambiguo, and then aunque. So again, that sometimes the U is silent. It depends on que, por qué. Assume in this case, the Q and the U have that sound. But so these are the standard diphthongs, the standard vowel combinations that you should expect to see in Spanish, and there's standard pronunciations to go along with. Are there any questions, frankly, on anything that we've covered up to this point? Alphabet, sounds, anything? Okay. That's all that I have for you as far as the lesson goes. I don't know how you guys are on time, but what we could do is I could type up some sentences, and as I mentioned last week, the point of whatever listening or reading you guys do at this point is not to understand, is to become familiar with the sights and sounds of the language. So if you say you go to Amazon, for example, because this is an easy one. If you go to Amazon and you're like, I don't know, you guys are looking at a new phone, or let's just pick product or whatever. Take whatever site you would normally go to, change .com to .es. Theo, oh my goodness. Kinsley.
I think he's finished.
Let him have them. It's a baby puzzle. Let him have them.
Change .com.es.
.es. Chances are they have that's just the shortcut to the site in Spanish. And just read for the sake of developing the pronunciation and understanding, developing the quickness with this is how this sounds. Read it aloud, practice the speech, like practice saying these things, but again, not having to think so much about what it is you're saying because it's right there.
You said .es.
.es or .mx because that's Mexico. ES is from Spain, so you have options. And I would expect any major site, any major store to have these as options. .es, .mx. It should just boop, right over to the right spot. Again, I could type stuff up. I don't have any of these prepared. Like I can just pull it over on a window. I don't know if they'll let me get much further.
He has a point.
Yeah.
He's had it. He says, let's go home.
They did a
So-
great job hanging in there.
Yes, he really did.
We were taught Castilian, which is
Yeah.
Spanish. And then when I went to Mexico, it was very, very hard for me to understand.
Yes.
Because it's just like England to America.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
It's different.
So
Are there any pronunciations different with what you taught today between Castilian and Mexican?
So
Or Mexican?
I am familiar enough with Castellano to say that they are typically Castellano and Spanish, any variety of Spanish. They're typically treated as two separate languages.
Oh.
There is certainly crossover, absolutely, but the people themselves there and any other resources that I found, because I've been curious about this too, because I know they are, like there's a pocket of Castellano in Spain, so I was like, oh, how close are they? Not as close as one might assume. So I don't have a concrete answer, but I would not expect what you know to apply directly. What you know of Castellano to apply directly to what you're looking for in Spanish.
But the rolling of the R's,
Yeah.
that's
So
the same.
right. These
And the diphthongs and
I would anticipate yes, but again, so like the sounds, it's like those things like those things of pronunciation, like rolling your R's. That's just a standard in any language that you find it. The vowel sounds and the diphthongs, I'm not so sure on Castellano. I couldn't give you. I don't want to mislead you.
and the double L's sounds like they're the same.
I would imagine, but again, I'm not so familiar with Castellano.
And the B and V, they're the same, like.
That they can flip and that they make the but and the
Yeah.
sound. Yep.
Okay.
Good question. Thank you. Anyone else?
Well, not the ones that you had. The first one I had was Castilian. He was from Cuba, actually.
Interesting.
And the big difference was the V's were always B's.
Hmm.
And the Z's were like a th,
Interesting.
And then the next semester, we had a different one. And she spent the whole semester unteaching us.
Ain't that great? Ain't that great? Just how that works.
That was the big difference, was the V's were always B's.
Interesting. From Cuba.
And then like what I remember now, that was a long time. But the Z's were always THs.
Interesting.
Like the.
One other. How many of you guys have the Bible app on your phone? Then you all have multiple translations of Spanish Bibles on your phone right now. So you can change not only the English translation, but you can go to the Spanish translations and download those on your phone too. So if you don't want to go to like Amazon.es, you want to read something that maybe you care about a little bit more, just change the Bible language, and you're already familiar with it. You have that background. So if you start in Genesis 1:1, you basically already know what they're saying. So what is said there rather. So you can read something in a context you care about and develop that habit and practice of Spanish.
These and thous in Spanish.
Yes. Expect vosotros, which they don't use in modern tongue. But yes, if you guys have no other questions for me, I've got nothing else for you right now.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it.
So, bringing it on level.
Yes, yeah, I'm so sorry about last